Hello everyone, back tuning in today's second video. So we've already done the weekend forecast, and you can find video chat here on the homepage. Just scroll down a little bit and it's underneath the link ads. There's also a written version, and you get to that via the buttons at the top of the page. It's going to be a very interesting week's weather, starting off really quite warm, but it's going to turn more unsettled and cooler as we get through to the end of the week. And if you want to know more about weekend forecast, then check out video or written version. This is the CFS 6 months look ahead. So as the name implies, we're going to go 6 months ahead with the long range CFS V2 model. And this is going to take us from next month, from March, right the way through to August. So we're going through spring and summer with tonight's CFS 6 months look ahead. It is just for fun. The first month or two has some scientific merit, hopefully, because if modelling getting things right, then you would assume that sort of 1-2 months away. Yes, there is a little bit of scientific merit there, but you're going 3, 4, 5, 6 months away, really zip around with just for fun. It's a snapshot for what the model is showing for those months tonight, but don't please take it too seriously. So I'll take you through the 700 millibar height anomalies for the next 6 months, and then we'll have a look at the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with those heights after that. Before I get on with that, just to say about the ads at Gad's Office, I just mentioned the links to articles. So there are links to articles on all of the pages. If you have a browser, you can click through the links. You're going to help us to pay for the website, and thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads to most pages, which own that content when you watch them, they close back up again, and it does help to pay for gadsoffice.com. So big thank to everybody getting involved, and thanks for doing that. So we'll start off with 700 millibar height anomalies, and then we'll have a look at the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with these heights, starting off in March. So that's the month we're closest to. Hopefully, the model is right. This is kind of how things might play out in March 2017. So the first thing to note is that we've got quite a deep trough in the Atlantic to the west and southwest of the UK. It looks like pretty Atlantic-driven month with the flow coming through rather like that. There are a couple of complicating factors, though, and quite interesting factors. So we've got quite a lot of yellow up here, which is indicative of above average heights up there to the north, around Greenland, going up to the polar field. So not a strong signal, they aren't sort of reds and oranges, but those yellow colours do indicate pressure is a bit higher than normal across the north. And also you'll notice that these blue colours, whilst the centre is here, they are extending down pretty much that central and southern Europe, indicating that the trough is sending energy southwards, presumably because of this sort of blocking feature up here. So we've got ridging up here, we're sending some of the energy down. Presumably the ridging, although it's centred there, presumably a lot of it is pushing down towards Scandinavia. So that is what is blocking the progress of this trough and then sending the energy southwards. So that could evolve into something colder for March. It isn't on its own terms a cold pattern for March 2017, but reading between the lines, I think that could evolve quite easily into something colder, particularly for Central and Southern Europe. Again, that's been the pattern through the winter. Possibly, if we was to move this trough here and centre it further southwards, then possibly we could bring cold air back into Western Europe. On its own terms, it's not a cold pattern. I'll show you the temperature, precipitation anomalies in a moment. It'll be quite wet, I assume, and fairly mildish. But reading between the lines, that could go in a slightly colder direction. Have a look at April next. This is what the model is showing for April, and this one looks fairly unsettled as well. So we've got a trough of low pressure up to the northwest. We've got the ridge around Spain, so a bit of Azores high there, ridging in towards Spain. And it just looks Atlantic driven. Notice we've lost that yellow up to the north, so we lose the blocking signal. I would assume a fairly mild but unsettled month here for April. Traditional April weather, really. Be a lot of showery weather, some bands of rain coming through as well. This ridge down across Spain is trying to bring warmer air up from the south, so at times we might see some incursions of warmer air, but I would have thought temperatures are likely to be around average, but it does look fairly unsettled. Moving through into May, quite a big change takes place in May. We're 3 months away now, so obviously confidence is falling. Low pressure coming back in over Greenland. And we've also got this ridge, which is out to the west-northwest of the country. So I think the jet stream is up here and then probably doing something a bit like that. So although we are close to an area of above average heights, actually I think that could be a fairly coolish and maybe for the south particularly quite unsettled scene. I do think there would likely be a trough in through here with a ridge out to the northwest. The flow would probably be coming down from the northeast. So actually what looks like a fairly decent anomaly probably is cooler and more unsettled than it looks. Into June, we're 4 months away now. The first month of the summer looks like this. We've got quite a lot of ridging out to the northeast of the country. We've got a trough in the centre of the Atlantic. It looks like the Azores high is pulling away from us, which is normally a very good development in summer. However, there is quite a lot of ridging up here. So for June, it will very much depend, I think, which is the driver. If this trough here was to undercut, go down there, with ridging up here, then we could end up with a very poor month, actually, with that. It could be very unsettled. Could be a lot of heavy rain and pretty dismal June. However, if this trough is centred, say it's centering around here in the middle of the Atlantic, and this ridge is much closer to us and stronger, then it could bring in quite a lot of easterly, southeasterly winds, which of course is going to be dragging in warmer air, maybe even hotter air from off the continent. So June is one of those months that is a bit in between based on what the 700 millibar height anomaly is doing. Potentially, though, it could go either way. It could be a very cool, wet month. It could be really quite a hot, dry month. So really uncertain for June. Now, July looks quite decent. We've got a lot of ridging here through the Atlantic. It's also extending up to the north and to the northeast of the UK. We've got fairly weak pressure underneath it, which could be low pressure down there. Now, this could be quite a hot and thundery month because I think the position of the ridging here is probably dragging up quite hot air from the east and southeast, but at the same time pressure is weak to the south, so that would imply to me it's 5 months away, so it's not really worth worrying about either way. But if it did come off like that, I think we're going to have quite a hot and quite a stormy, thundery month there in July. That looks really good if you like thunderstorms, I have to say, particularly for the south. And then finally, we go through to August. It's 6 months away, so it's just for fun. And the ridging is repositioned again. This time, it's back to kind of where it is in May. It's sort of to the west-northwest of the country, which you will think is probably drawing in the air from the northeast. And that would be quite cool. And for the south as well, pressure is weak, so we've probably still got low pressure around here. These northeasterly winds, that could be fairly cool and wet, actually, for August, particularly for the south. However, it wouldn't take very much of an adjustment at all to make that quite a hot month as well. What you would need to do is just send that area of above average heights more towards there and ease it out from here. So if you centre the above average heights there, then instead of a northeasterly, you're going to pick up an east-southeasterly, which in August is going to be very hot. And again, that could be thundery. So summer is quite interesting. It's very close, actually, particularly, I think, July and August, but a little bit with June as well. Very close, be quite hot, bring between the lines to those summer months. Don't expect that to be represented in the temperature and precipitation anomalies, which we are going to look at right now. So this is how temperatures are stacking up for March, coming back to the month we're closest to. And we're just about the coolest place in Europe, actually, in the UK and Ireland, coming out with average temperatures there. Most other parts of Europe significantly milder than average. As I said, it's a funny month in March, I should say, because we have got the above average heights up here, and then got this deep trough just here in the central of the part of the Atlantic, and the trough is sort of going a bit like that. So certainly, if I change the colour, certainly this area up here, maybe that's a bit too far north actually, certainly this area around here, I would have thought, again, that is likely to have some colder incursions based on this trough that's out in the west. It's centred out to west, but it's sort of doing something a bit like that. So I think Central Europe, that's too overdone with the temperatures, and it could quite easily evolve in a colder direction, actually, in March. This is how April's temperatures are looking, and this just looks like a straightforward westerly month. So we've got low pressure up here, we've got a ridge down here, bring the jet stream through like that. So temperatures in an Atlantic-driven April are going to be near normal for the UK and Ireland. Won't be a particularly big deviation. Further east, it's still seeing a fairly mildish month across central and eastern parts of Europe. I suspect, again, that could be a little bit overdone. But average temperatures for the UK, and probably makes sense based on the pattern. Into May, and this is when we've got that ridging out to the west and to the northwest of the UK, which presumably doing something a little bit like that with the flow. So there's probably a trough in here. Just going for average temperatures really for most parts of Europe, hinting potentially at a cooler month compared to what we see for the first two. And I think based on the pressure distribution, that does make sense. We're up to month 4 now, which is June. So everything from this point on is just the thumb. Temperature anomalies in June are coming out close to average. Again, it's quite a complicated month. There's the ridging up to the northeast. There's a trough out in the Atlantic. So it potentially is quite a cool and wet month. But if that trough is weaker, it could be significantly drier. July coming out warmer than average for central parts of Europe. Some of that is getting into west of Europe as well. Remember, for July, we're building a ridge up through here and going up to here, and then we've got weak pressure down here, which we're probably bringing in the air from the east or the southeast, and with these low pressure down to south, that could be threatening thunder. And then finally through to August, 6 months away, just for fun, most parts of Europe coming out with average temperatures, hinting probably at being a little bit on the cooler than average side for August again. So it could easily evolve those summer patterns into something hotter for the summer. But as the model is at the moment, it's actually going for, well, July's a bit warmer, but June and August coming out on the cooler side, if anything. And then finally having a look at the precipitation anomalies for the next 6 months. So we're coming back again to March. So we've got near normal precipitation through most parts of Europe. Notice it's drier than average up across Norway particularly, so there's ridging up here, which we know also extends out to there and there as well. It's wetter than average for Spain and France, so we've got low pressure out here, and this is all indicative that we're sending the jet stream and the energy down into central and southern parts of Europe. So as I say, this could easily, very easily, evolve into a colder month in March. And given how uncertain it is just for next month, does have to be a big health warning on everything that follows. April just looks wetter than average for the UK, coming out with above average rainfall in April. The reason, again, I'll remind you what the pattern is. There's low pressure up here, there's high pressure, where it's drier than average around Spain, and the jet stream is just coming in off the Atlantic. So a very, very classic, typical sunshine and showers, quite unsettled April being signalled after what is quite an unusual pattern, actually, for March. Moving through to May, and it's looking drier than average. The reason for that is that we're blocking off the Atlantic. We've got a ridge around here. It's not in a position to be producing any warm weather because the flow is generally coming in from the northeast. So it's dry, fairly dry for May, but the temperatures are nothing to get excited about. In fact, probably on the cool side. June, quite complicated, and it's indicative of that battle I was talking about. So, for the southeast of the UK, it's drier than average. Notice, drier than average also for many northern parts of Europe. But for Scotland, Ireland, and southwestern England, it's coming out wetter than average. So, clearly, there's going to be low pressure up here, which is coming up against the high pressure here. And that's why it could go either way. If that high pressure isn't strong enough, it's going to let this low pressure come in and give us a really dismal month, potentially very wet in that kind of pattern in June, and really cool as well. But conversely, if that low pressure is centred more around here and is stalling, then you're going to allow the ridge to build to the northeast, and that'll draw in the easterly winds, which in June are going to start to bring in hotter air. They can produce a lot of cloud in the east, but that tends to burn off through the days, and you tend to get quite hot days after coolish cloudy starts for the east. Remember June 1995, that's quite an interesting month because temperature anomalies weren't all that exciting for the month as a whole, but it did get very hot later on as those easterly winds set in. July, again, indicative of potentially quite a thundery month. Notice it's looking wet there for England and Wales and for most parts of France as well, above average precipitation anomalies in those areas. We've got the ridging through here, and it's particularly centering over Scandinavia, which is going to be drawing in quite a hot air from the southeast, but with instability around Biscay and around France, again, very much at risk of thundery conditions in July. That's a mouth-watering type scenario. It's 5 months away, so it's nothing to get excited about, unfortunately. But if you like convection, if you like thunderstorms, July, there is a bit of a mouth-watering one. And then we finish up in August, and again, we've got the ridging, which is more out to the north and to the northwest, but also just, again, extending to Scandinavia, where it's drier than average. So a lot of ridging over Scandinavia, and that's the reason I think, although the model doesn't really show it yet, if we do get this ridging in over Scandinavia through the summer, I think we've got to watch out for the chance of a much hotter summer than the model is going for at the moment. But as it is, just not quite in the right position to produce hot weather. And actually, we know that in August, what we're doing from the height anomaly is bringing in the winds more from the northeast, which of course is going to be a colder direction. So it's drier than average to the north and west and near normal elsewhere. We'll worry about summer when we get close. But incidentally, there will be a sneak peek at Caswabiz for the summer of 2017 a week tomorrow, the last Sunday of February. I think it's around the 26th of February, perhaps. That day we'll do the spring forecast, and then later on we'll move the bandwagon on to summer, and we'll do a summer 2017 sneak peek. So all of that gets going a week tomorrow. But we'll worry about CFS and summer when we get closer to it. For the spring, the charts are quite interesting. Again, all the months look a little bit different. This is something that came out when we did the 3-monthly update with the JMA on Thursday. So it looks as though March is quite an unsettled month, and the model is going for a fairly warm, mild month, but I think reading between the lines there could be some colder conditions, especially for central, southern, southeastern Europe again, as has been the case through the winter. Possibly getting that back to west of Europe if the blocking is strong enough. So that's how March is shaping up. April just looks a classic sunshine and showers, Atlantic driven April, so bands of rain, lots of April showers, quite an unsettled month, temperatures about average. And then May looks quite interesting, fairly dry, but also quite cool with the block of a ridge sitting to the northwest and probably bringing in a lot of cool, probably fairly cloudy and disappointing northeasterly winds. Beyond that, for summer, very interesting July. I'll say no more about that. Right, so that's it for CFS 6 months look ahead for today, for February. We'll do it all over again in March, of course, just under 20 minutes. Don't forget to check out the weekend forecast if you haven't done that yet. And tomorrow at Gazzavis, we're going to have some spring analogues, and we'll also have our Sunday roundup, as always. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.